Hey guys, welcome to the Strangler podcast. Tonight we're going to be going over Bellator 276 and the UFC Fight Night coming up this weekend.
Our tail of the tape for this, our main event of the evening. We introduce the champion, Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan. Let's get it on!
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan, and this is my producer / Jamie, PJ. We're going to go over the fights we were talking about earlier, and we'll get started.
All right, so the first fight we got is J.J. Wilson versus Godzi Rabadanov. What do you know about this fight?
It's a good fight. This is the second big step up in competition for JJ. JJ's a real tough fighter out of New Zealand, and he's actually a really good grappler, but he's won and finished fights with strikes as well, kind of like 50-50. His last fight was a big step up fighting Pedro Carvalho. That was, when I heard that fight, I was like, wow, that's a big step up for a guy that's 6-0. And he went in and starched him, beat him handily. I think it went into the beginning of the second round.
Yeah, 53 seconds into the first round, I think is what it was.
He came out and just kind of pieced him up. And then the beginning of the second round, he landed straight, and then all of a sudden combo and dropped him, and then was able to get on him and finish him.
So this dude's a black belt, though. So is that surprising you that he's finishing people with strikes?
He's not only a black belt, he's a black belt that claims he has the best jiu-jitsu in the Bellator featherweight division.
So how do you feel about that?
I disagree. He's got really good jiu-jitsu, but I don't know if he has the best jiu-jitsu in the division.
Anybody come to mind when you start thinking about that?
My bloodline comes to mind. They're on different levels of in Bellator at the moment, but Luke's coming.
Absolutely.
And that's a guy, I don't know if he's going to move up to 155. This fight has one listed at 145 and the other listed at 155. So I don't know if they're having a catch weight or if JJ is moving up. But if he doesn't move up at some point, yes, they'll run into each other, and we'll see who actually has the best jiu-jitsu in the featherweight division.
So at 8-0, he's got 4 submissions. He's got 3 finishes by strikes. He's only got 1 decision, so he seems to be ending his fights pretty quickly.
He's a finisher for sure. He comes out very aggressive, very hyper. But he's technical, and he's a good fighter, man. He's very tough. I've not seen Rabadanov fight. Okay. However, he comes out of Dagestan.
Yeah.
He is from Russia, and there hasn't been a lot of losses coming out of that area of the world at the moment.
Yep.
in MMA. So it'll be an interesting fight, but just stepping up to a guy with a record that 16-4.
16-4. That's right.
Is big enough, and then taking a guy that's 16-4 fighting out of Dagestan, he's going to be well trained. He's going to be tough. It's going to be an exciting fight.
So Rabadanov, he's gone the distance with his 16 fights. He's gone 5 that have gone all the way to decisions. He does have 5 submissions, which is actually 1 more than JJ's.
Yeah.
Do you see this going to the ground, or do you feel like this is going to be a punch-in match? How do you see this going?
Well, it always happens when there's 2 really good guys on the ground that they end up striking the whole time.
Right.
I feel like the JJ kid doesn't really care where the fight takes place. I don't think he's worried about going to the ground or worried about striking with this guy. And just because he comes off that way to me, he's a little brash.
Sure.
He's a little arrogant, but in a not a terrible way. And so I'm not sure, but if it ends up on the ground, I'm honestly, JJ's most likely going to be on bottom.
Okay.
I don't believe he's a wrestler, and Rabadanov coming out of Dagestan is 100% going to have wrestled.
Can he finish from the bottom? Can he
for
submit?
Sure, okay. For sure, but I don't know that he submits a guy like that from the bottom.
Got it.
The ground and pound on those guys, it's something that we've kind of emulated over here with my son and Bryce and some other guys we train with, do a lot of the stuff that Khabib was doing. And that's the same thing these guys are doing. It's hard to get up. It's hard to submit. It's hard to get up. So we'll see. It'll be a good fight. I'm going to actually go with the Rabadanov by decision.
By decision, so you think it's going the distance?
Go 3 rounds.
All right. So we got you with Rabadanov. We'll mark it down. Next fight we got is Johnny Eblin and John Salter. So Johnny Eblin, looks like the 185. Johnny Eblin's undefeated, trims out of American Top Team. What do you know about him?
He comes from a group of 3 guys that were all undefeated. No one wanting to be the first one, losing out of the group that trains. One of them is Austin Vanderfort, who just lost to Gegard Mousasi for the belt.
Yep.
Looking at this guy's record, if he beats John Salter, who also just lost to Gegard Mousasi, his first loss might also be Gegard Mousasi.
So that guy's eating him all up.
Yeah, I mean he's probably in line for the belt here pretty soon, and that's going to be his fight. To his first fight to lose if that's the case.
So at 10-0, he's got 4 decisions. He's going a little bit farther in, but he's only got 1 submission. Sounds like this guy's more of a striker, but that's kind of surprising because he wrestled at the University of Missouri.
He did. He's a Mizzou wrestler. I think he got 6th at the Southern Scuffle, which is a great tournament that I've gone to with my son, and which he's qualified for the NCAAs as well. So he's very tough. John Salter is an NAIA champion, national champion, and he's also an ADCC North American champion.
Okay.
So he's good at wrestling, but he's also good on the ground. He's got good submissions. He actually held off Rafael Lovato Jr. for a while in their fights. Rafael was setting up subs on him, but he was very good at getting out, and Rafael was one of the best in the world.
So I was looking at Salter's record. He went on a long win streak. He had 7 wins in a row, but in his last 5 fights, he's only gone 3-2. What do you read out of that?
Well, again, he won early on and then got to the point where he's fighting the top guys and fighting for the belt. He lost to Gegard Mousasi, like I said.
Yeah.
And so, when you get to that top level, everyone's good, right? And it's kind of what I was saying about Bryce's last fight. Now that he beat Edson, everybody's Edson after that.
Right.
If you look inside the top 9 in that division, it's stacked. So same for John Salter. He got to the championship, and I don't know if that was his first loss in that string or his last loss against Gegard, but
it was just his last fight.
It was his loss. Okay, yeah. So he hasn't actually fought in a while then, because that was a little bit ago. But that's you start to get to the top caliber guys, and even as a top caliber guy, one of you has to lose.
That's right. So you got 2 solid NAIA and ADCC. Those are wrestling competitions, correct?
Yes.
General wrestling. So you got 2 strong wrestlers. You see this being a slugfest, or how do you see this going then?
I mean, for sure they're going to bang it out on the feet. It's the same thing that like Austin Vanderfort, who is Johnny Eblin's training partner, he bangs it out on the feet, then wrestles. Bangs it out on the feet, then wrestles. And I imagine this guy's going to probably do the same thing. I would predict that Salter's going to be the better striker and probably have the better submission game.
Okay.
I'm going to go with him by finish, but I don't know how. I'm not going to call out how, but I believe Salter will beat him.
So when I look at Eblin though, it looks like at 10-0, you think is he going to be opening up, like diving in based off of his strikes? Is he going to be trying to get the takedowns through the strikes? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's another thing that happens as you get closer to fighting for the belt.
Yeah,
he might start to wrestle a lot more and fight a little safer.
Okay.
And if he does that, if he's able to take Salter down and avoid the guillotine or avoid any submissions, he might eke out a decision on him. I doubt he beats him up real bad. Salter's salty.
He's durable dude.
Yeah, he's very durable. He's very tough, man. He's an exciting fighter as well. He fought on one of the cards that Luke fought on when we were at Mohegan Sun, and super cool guy as well.
Cool. Awesome. So you're picking Salter on this one.
I'm going to go ahead and go with Salter.
All right.
By something.
But not by decision. Or do you think it's going to end early?
I don't think he'll go the distance.
Okay.
And win a decision on him. Here, I'll say this. If it goes the distance and there's a decision to be won, it's going to be by Johnny Eblin.
Okay.
I think if the fight's stopped, I'm going to go with Salter.
Okay. Awesome. All right, moving on to the co-main event, Phil Davis with Julius Angelicus. Phil Davis is coming in at 23-6. He does have a no contest. Julius a little younger in his career at 10-2. What do you see here?
Yeah, so I've never heard of Julius until he came into the light heavyweight Grand Prix and replaced Anthony Johnson when Anthony Johnson got sick. And he came in and lost to Vadim Nemkov, who is the champ, who was a stud, who was also Phil Davis's last loss, and that's who took him out of the tournament as well.
Yep.
So I don't know a lot about him. I know he went 4 rounds with Vadim, so he's tough. He's good, and durable. But Phil Davis is in my opinion, is on a different level. He's a 3-time NCAA All-American, NCAA national champion in 2008. He's he wrestled for Penn State, which is like in the last 10, 11, 12 years, that's been the #1 school in the nation for wrestling. They've won the most championships.
So just getting in on Penn State means he's legit.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
And you mentioned 3-time All-American. What's it take to be an All-American?
So All-American is at a national championship to place inside the top 8.
Okay.
So anybody that places inside the top 8 is a national champion. Or I'm sorry, anybody that places inside the top 8 is an All-American.
Okay.
And he happened to be a national champion. He was also an All-American before that because he was a runner-up at the NCAAs as well.
Okay. And national champion is just that. It's the champion. It's the one, right?
Yeah. He's had a solid wrestling career. So I just feel like anytime he wants the fight to be on the ground, it'll be on the ground.
Yeah.
And with him on top, he actually has very good submissions as well. He's got a good Kimura, which is, I got to appreciate that. And, I think the other guy is just more of a durable, good fighter, tough guy, but I just think he's not on the same level as Phil Davis.
So you mentioned the Kimura. That's actually, when he lost to Vadim, it was a Kimura in the 4th round. So he put up a fight, but he lost to that Kimura, and that's interesting if Phil Davis can lock that in.
Yeah, I want to say that's one of Phil Davis's best attacks on the ground.
So maybe, I guess it could go either way. He could be suspect towards it, but he also might be training against it since he just lost that way. I guess I don't know how that would go.
Yeah. You can't learn jiu-jitsu in 6 months.
Fair enough.
And so, it wasn't that long ago that tournament was going on and he was fighting against Nemkov. I'm going to pick Phil Davis.
Okay.
It might go a couple rounds. Phil Davis isn't like a super fast starter. He's not he's an explosive striker, and he strikes well, and he's real tall and long. He could land great strikes, but I don't see him getting him out of there for, It could possibly go the distance, but otherwise probably late 2nd, early 3rd round by submission.
So Julius is coming off, even before that loss to Vadim, he hit 9 in a row. But I'm assuming because at 10-2, that's just those lower ranking fighters, and that
right. Like who did he fight on those 9 in a row? Is the the thing. Like Phil Davis is coming off of wins against really good guys. He's coming from the UFC before coming to Bellator, where he fought all the best guys. He's been fighting at the tip-top level of the sport for quite a while. And I just think that guy's not ready for Phil Davis.
Yeah, Phil Davis, he just won a decision against Yoel Romero in September. So,
that was a boring fight. And a lot of people that fight Yoel, the fight ends up being, fairly boring because he's either explosive and going to kill you, or he's real tentative and moves around a lot and like explodes here and there. And you don't want to just leap in on Yoel because he does have the one-punch knockout power. He's very explosive, flying knees. He knocked out Chris Weidman with a flying knee.
Yep.
And he's also, I don't know what medal, but he medaled in the Olympics in judo. So he's a very, I'm sorry, he medaled in the Olympics for wrestling. Yeah, from Cuba. So he's very, he's a very tough guy, very explosive guy. So with Phil beating him, that was a big accomplishment. Everyone was really excited to see when Anthony Johnson and Yoel Romero came over from the UFC and jumped into the lightweight or the light heavyweight Grand Prix in Bellator, and they got taken out.
That's awesome. So I'm just looking here at how they've won. Phil Davis does have a lot of decisions. Out of his 23 wins, 12 of them are coming by decisions. Julius doesn't seem like he goes that deep. Out of his 10 wins, only 3 of them were, so percentage-wise.
Yeah, so that's why I say it could go the distance, because Phil Davis isn't a super fast starter. It's only a 3-round fight.
Yep.
He could finish him just because I don't think he's on the same level as Phil.
Okay.
But it could also go the distance. He's not super exciting, but he's very controlling with the level of wrestling that he's got.
Co-main event only going 3 rounds. Does that surprise you?
No, typically the main event's going to go the 5 rounds, or a title fight will go 5 rounds. Co-main, the only time it's going to go 5 rounds if it's like two names like
Covington and Masvidal.
Right. But that was for
the main event.
Yeah, it was the main event, right? It wasn't for the belt, but it was the main event. Any main event fights, Bellator just switched that to going 5 rounds now on their main event fights, and so not surprised that it's 3 rounds, but I think that might be what saves Angelicus from getting finished. But at the same time, I also think he'll probably get finished.
Oh, okay. So you're picking Phil Davis for sure on this one.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Okay, so now looking at the main event, Adam Borick, Mads Burnell. You know a lot about both of these guys.
I do. I pay attention really from 135 to 155, just because Lucas fights at 145, and anybody can move up or anybody can move down, or one day we may end up moving up. So I watch a lot of fights in those weight classes. There was a point in time where I wasn't watching fights at all, and then he decided to fight, and I started
jumped right in.
Yeah, I started breaking down fights and really, paying attention to what guys are doing, what works, what's not working, and who's good at what.
So I'm looking at Borick. He's 17-1. It looks like in his only loss was a submission. Fighting out of Hungary. He's pretty balanced. He's got 4 by strikes. He's got 6 by submissions, and he's got 6 by decisions. So this guy can kind of beat you a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I'm surprised he has as many by submission and by decision. He's got really good striking, real explosive striking. He's one of the guys who had knocked out Aaron Pico early on in Aaron's career with a jump knee. But then he was submitted by Darren Caldwell in the featherweight Grand Prix pretty early on in the fight. It was pretty fast. So I don't know how good his grappling is or who he fought on his submissions, but I know by watching him, his striking's very good. And I expect to see him trying to keep it on the feet. He's actually when he lost that fight to Darren Caldwell, he was undefeated in a lot of things. I think he was undefeated in kickboxing, he was undefeated in boxing, and he was also undefeated in MMA. Like, he hadn't lost in anything, and so that loss probably stung a little bit, I'm sure.
Does that put him back? When something like that happens as a fighter, does that put you back into the gym harder? Is this like, all right, I'm going to learn from this? Does it break your spirit a little bit?
It depends who you've had in your corner all along. If you've got yes men the whole time telling you that you can't be beat, you can't be beat, you can't be beat, and then you get beat, it's kind of, it may break you. So you have to be honest with your guy at all times and kind of keep him grounded. It's good to be confident, and believe that you're the best and believe that you are going to beat the person. But sometimes when that happens and you get beat, that's it. Some people's career take a big turn after that. Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas.
Yeah. Well, but then also if you look at someone like the Rose fight, when she's sitting there in the corner saying, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. Like, did you believe that?
And she was.
She was. She was definitely the best.
She's one of my
night.
favorite female fighters for sure. Probably my favorite female fighter.
Right.
And yeah, that moment for me was awesome.
Yeah.
And then when Pat was talking to her afterwards, he's like, I told you you're the best. And she goes, I am the best.
So when you see Adam, how do you think that loss went for him? Do you think that he's gonna?
Yeah, I think he's hungry. I think he might have fought since then. I'm not positive, but I think he's solid. I think he's I think he's ready and back, hunting down the title.
And it's ironic he's actually fighting out of Hungary. So you called him hungry, and you were right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you know about Mads? 16-3. Guy's got he's got some miles on him as well. He's got some experience.
Yeah.
A lot of submissions. He's got 9 of his 16 wins are coming by submission.
Right. So he does have a lot of grappling experience. I'm not sure belt-wise where he's at, but he's very good on the ground. Coming out of Denmark, I would imagine that he's not a wrestler. There's not a lot of wrestling over there. So that might be something that works in Adam Borick's favor, not having a high-level wrestler. Like Darren Caldwell was a national champion, so that guy was going to get him to the ground when he wanted to get to the ground.
Sure.
This guy might not be able to, and run into his knees and his uppercuts and elbows. And like I said, he's a very dangerous striker. I don't see Borick submitting him. I see on the ground Mads Burnell submitting Borick's, but he's got to get him to the ground to do that.
So they're like 18 fights and 19 fights. They're pretty close in record. Mads is a strong grappler and Cage Warriors featherweight champion.
Yeah, he was a Cage Warriors featherweight champion, which is over in the UK, where Paddy Pimblett, one of my guys from over there from the Liverpool gym, was a champion there for a long time as well.
Okay.
And so there's very good fighters come out of that organization, and it's huge. Paddy sells that place out, the O2 Arena, just like Connor would somewhere, and so fighting out of that place, he stayed there for a long time. The UFC wanted him to come to the UFC for quite a while, and he stayed at Cage Warriors because it's a big event, it pays really well, and you get great competition.
Great exposure too.
Yeah,
it
for
sounds
sure,
like. I mean,
for
you're getting
sure.
a lot. All right. So, do you have Adam or do you have Mads in this fight?
I mean, if I was smart, I would just say Adam by strikes or Mads Burnell by submission.
Right.
I'm gonna actually go out on a limb and go with Mads Burnell just because I
Really?
want to. Yeah, I'm gonna say by submission. Yeah, I'm gonna pick it by submission.
By submission. Now, Mads is fighting out of the blue corner. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So, talk to me about the blue corner versus the red corner.
So the blue corner, the red corner. Red corner is typically going to be your champion, your hometown guy, your contracted fighter maybe versus a non-contracted fighter. It's going to be, the red corner is the favorite, most likely, the kind of the champion. The champion's always going to be in the red corner, and that means the blue corner is going to come out and wait in the ring for you to be announced and you to come out and get in the ring. So he's going to stand there and get cold while you're still warming up.
Gotcha.
But it's that's kind of how, if there's ranking involved, the higher ranked guy, or the lower ranked guy, is going to be the red corner. So if I'm number 4 and you're number 5, I'm going to be in the red corner.
So, red corner is the lower ranked?
The like champion. If I'm ranked higher than a lower number, then I'm going to be in the red corner.
Red corner. So, do you feel like they got this right? Blue corner, red corner. When you're
Yeah,
talking about
ranking wise on for Bellator right now, Adam Borick is the higher ranked guy.
Higher ranked guy
for sure.
Got it. Okay, so you're taking Mads Burnell by submission on this one.
The upset.
That's upset. That's good stuff. All right.
All right, now we're going to move over to UFC Fight Night. We'll go over the last 2 fights on the main card.
All right, looks like Marlon Moraes.
Moraes,
thank you. And Song Yadong. Tell me about those.
Yeah, so Marlon Moraes was on a good win streak for quite a while. And then he's had, he's run into a few rough patches. I think he's coming off of 2 or 3 losses in a row right now. He lost, so he fought Henry Cejudo for the belt, put it on Henry bad in the first round, like a 10-8 round. I was super curious of how Cejudo was going to, respond, and he came back out and was a completely different fighter in the second round and then beat him in the third round, I believe.
Okay.
And so from that point on, he's kind of been hot and cold. Really good striking. He's real fast, explosive, built really well. But again, he hasn't been the same since that fight. And so I'm not sure, Song Yadong, also a good striker, comes out of alpha male. And so he's going to have some wrestling as well. There's a lot of good wrestlers that train out of that gym. Uriah Faber has, for the last, 10 plus 15 years put together a savage group of little guys. There's a bunch of guys like 155 and under there who are just really good wrestlers, really good fighters, and they've gotten great striking as well.
What weight class are we at here? I forgot to look.
145, I want to say.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 135.
135. So these are little guys.
Yeah, bantamweight.
So I look at Song Yadong, and this guy, out of his last 11 fights, is 9-1-1. But at 18-6, this isn't the beginning of his career. He's getting some
been
real
around
fights
for a while, and he's been in the UFC for a while now as well. Tough guy. He's fights out of China, and for a long time we didn't have anybody that was fighting out of China, and then we had Wei Ling, the girl, come over and win the belt, and it was pretty awesome. She's so tough, and then this guy, he's trying to be the first guy to win the belt from out of China as well.
And Moraes is coming out of Brazil. It's interesting. Both of them go pretty deep. They've got Moraes has 7 wins by decision. Yadong has 8 wins by decision, so they can go deep and finish it that way.
Sure.
But it looks like Song Yadong's got quite a number of early finishes as well.
Yeah, he comes out hot. He comes out looking to finish. Like I said, Moraes moves fast. He's got real fast leg kicks and whatnot. I think the other guy's just kind of at a little more of an upbeat in his career than Marlon is at the moment, and I really like Marlon. He's a great fighter. I just think that at this point in time, he's kind of, unless he's turned over a new leaf and kind of got it together.
Yep.
I feel like it's gonna be a tough night for him.
So he's lost 4 out of his last 5. Are you going to say he loses 5 out of 6?
I am. I'm going to say that Song Yadong beats him.
Okay.
I don't know that he stops him or not. There's a lot of people that criticize the higher level fighters for going the distance,
Sure.
But you're going against another guy who's also a high level fighter, who's been training for a couple months for you specifically, And, if you land that one, awesome. If you get the position on the ground to submit him, awesome. But, just with the experience of training all the fighters that I trained in the past and then training with my son, we prepare for everything,
Sure.
So it's going to be very difficult to stop someone or to be stopped. I mean, and so unless you have a big upper hand on the ground or you have a big upper hand on the feet with a takedown defense, it's going to be tough to get the positions to stop guys. And so it's hard to, he goes the distance all the time. Well, it's not like he's not trying. You know what I mean?
For sure. And I also think about it, Moraes has 33 fights worth of tape.
Right.
Song Yadong's got 22 fights worth of tape. So as a coach, when you're looking at this, these fighters obviously they've got a lot of history. So you're preparing for that. And I think that must make it harder for anybody to get any advantage because you're learning so much about him. Is that accurate?
Yeah, for sure. And like when I'm watching fights or looking up fighters, I'll only go back 2 years.
Okay.
2.5, maybe 3 years. I'll go back to last 4 or 5 fights, and I won't watch anything before that because it doesn't really matter because they're changing obviously for the better most likely. And so I'll watch the last few fights. The last fight is probably going to tell you the most if it's not like a 30-second fight.
It's a Cowboy McGregor kind of deal, something.
Yeah. I mean, that's not going to tell you a whole lot about Cowboy, right?
Right.
And so
or McGregor, really.
No, correct. So I like to go back and watch what their last fight was. Try to find a decision. If you can find a decision, you get 15 minutes basically of watching the guy do what he's going to do all over the place. So that's kind of my take on it.
So it is interesting though. Song Yadong, of his 6 losses, 4 of them were by decision. So he's got 4 losses by decision, but he's won 8. So I mean, going the distance, statistically, you would think that he's going to get the win.
Right.
Do you think this goes the distance?
He's clearly got the cardio to go the distance.
Apparently,
he's done it that many times.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, that's 12. That's at least 12 fights, and he's got 1 no contest. So I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry, no, that was Moraes. They had the no contest, but he's gone deep. So do you think this one goes the distance?
I'm sure it probably will go the distance.
Okay.
They're going to go the distance, but I believe Song Yadong is going to pull off the victory.
Is this a boring fight, or do you think
No.
this is strikes?
No,
This is going to be a war.
For sure.
Cool.
There's neither one of those guys I don't think can have a boring fight.
Okay, I like it. Okay, so for the last fight, Thiago Santos against Magomed Ankalaev. And I totally butchered his name.
Not Ankalaev,
Ankalaev,
I believe, and Thiago Santos. Great fight. Again, I wasn't even sure that guys fighting out of Dagestan or Russia were bigger than 155. Like all of those guys are within the 155, 145, 135
This
range.
is 205, which means he's coming down from even a higher walking around weight. So
That's
this is a big
that's
dude.
a big Russian.
It's a big dude.
So he's very tough, man. What's his record?
He's got 15-1 right now.
Yeah, 15-1. That's a tough guy, and especially coming out of there, Thiago Santos has had a rough run since his loss to
John Jones.
My loss was in quotes there.
So
a lot of people thought he won that fight. He lost a split decision, had both knees blown out.
Yeah.
And I believe he ended up having surgery on both knees after that fight. And, people thought that he beat John Jones.
Did you think he beat John Jones?
I did, and John Jones went to heavyweight after that, right? Like
he's like, I'm out. I'm out.
So,
and you talked about the knee surgery. What was it about the fight that caused?
Well, I think he just got damaged, like that front kick that John Jones does, leg kicks. I'm not sure what caused both knees. How it ended up damaging both knees.
Yeah.
But over a 5-round fight, fighting someone like John Jones, and striking. His striking's great. He has very good striking. Thiago Santos.
Just going the distance with John Jones, that's a resume builder in and of itself.
Sure.
I mean, he's say what you want about who he is as a person, and I'd probably agree with most of it.
Yeah.
His resume is it speaks for itself as far as fighting.
It does. He's one of the greatest of all time. I'm not a fan, to be honest, even of his fighting style.
Yeah.
I don't like to watch him fight. The only reason I do, and it's what pays him, is there are people either watching him to watch him win or watching him to watch him lose. I watch him to hope that day comes that he loses.
Yep.
Just because he's not a great dude, but he is a great fighter, no question about that. Can't hate on that.
So Santos obviously has a great resume. One of the things that surprised me about Ankalaev is that being Russian, coming out of the same kind of cut from the same cloth as
He's a striker, right?
Yeah, he is a striker.
Yeah.
He has 0 wins by submission.
Yeah.
None.
So again, moving back to him being Russian and being big and being a striker, he's got to be deadly, right? And there's not a lot of them that are strikers. I forget the guy's name, but there's one that Khabib corners that fights in Bellator that is also a striker.
Is he
more than a wrestler, he's a striker.
Is he another Nurmagomedov? Is he like a cousin?
Yeah,
because I've seen one of his cousins fight. Is that who you're talking
he is.
about?
It's his cousin or his brother or someone that fights out of there.
Got it.
And I believe he's a 155er, and he's very good.
Okay.
But he's a striker. He's got a striking background, not a wrestling background.
You know, I actually went back and I watched Khabib and Conor, and you know that was finished by strikes. It wasn't a submission. He was throwing elbows, and that was when he was talking, saying, "Hey, let's talk now. You want to talk? Let's talk now." While he's throwing elbows down on.
Khabib's always talking when he's on the ground. He's telling you that he's the best.
Yes,
he's breaking you.
It's my belt. Just give up now. It's my belt. You give it to me. It is my time. So how do you see this going then? I mean, it would shock the world if he got a submission here, but he can go. He's got 7 wins by decision. Santos has 6 wins by decision, so both of them have the ability to go to distance. Santos has lost all 3 ways equally. He's got 3 losses by strikes, he's got 3 losses by submission, and 3 losses by decision. So it's hard to find where you'd go.
I'm going with Ankalaev by either decision or TKO on the ground. I think he could hurt him on the feet and finish him on the ground. And I think that's what happens. It's either a decision or that. And it's they're the main event, so it's 5 rounds. Yeah. So I'm going to go with him for sure, and either by stoppage or decision.
I don't know. It's really hard. You know, you think about standing up against a guy that's 15-1, but then you remember that Santos went 5 rounds with John Jones. And
right.
Many people thought so.
How healed are his knees, after having double knee surgery and whatnot. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like since then he went on a 3-fight losing streak from John Jones.
Yep.
Got rear naked choke by Glover Teixeira, and then he lost one more before winning a fight. And so I don't know. It'll be a good fight. It'll be a good fight, but I'm going with Ankalaev.
And it doesn't go the distance.
It's either going to be by TKO on the ground or it'll go the distance. Okay. But I don't see it going 5.
Awesome. That's it for our fights, man. That's all we got.
We'll see you guys next week when we come back and recap all this and see how I did on my predictions.
So you were 3-0 last week.
I was.
We'll see how you do on this one.
We'll see. Yep. Thank you.
Take it easy.
It is all over.